Everyone back to Evermore YouTube channel. Is Chris back with the aftermath. This is a show we do when everything's settled down and calmed down from the instant post-match reaction to Newcastle United's latest game, which happened to be a 2-0 victory at home against Crystal Palace. I was there. I've just about thawed out. It was freezing. I was in the Leeis and absolutely Baltic. It's the first time I've ever been to the game with my mate and you had a bovril instead of a pint before the game. That's how cold things were, I tell you. But Newcastle United turned up the heat when they needed to, and they got the victory largely down to one or two players in particular who are vastly becoming a dynamic duo for Newcastle United. I'm going to get stuck right into this in a second. Just before I do, a little reminder to smash subscribe at the bottom. The help gets to the next milestone, which is 13,000 subscribers. We had a brilliant 2025. We're already nearly halfway to 13,000. So help get us there, guys, as quick as you can. Mark was on post-match. I know you guys gave him a lot of love in the comments, which is brilliant. He did a fantastic job. Let's get stuck in to the aftermath then. So largely for spells of that game, it was a little bit scruffy. It was a little bit, all over the place with Newcastle United. That we were lacking that kind of final killer pass, that final bit of quality. The team was unchanged. Again, I've got a big issue with Anthony Gordon starting over Harvey Barnes. I'll get into that in a second. And I understand why people are saying it should happen, but for me, it shouldn't. But I'll explain my workings out in a minute. But Whistle looked lively, looked sharp. He was trying to find pockets of space in between the Palace defence. I thought Palace kind of looked like they showed up for a draw in many ways. I think they were just going to keep it tight, try and stay compact, and then try and hit us on the break with maybe a Mateta goal. And I think that was Glasner's game plan. I kind of understand that. And they nearly did it with Will Hughes when he just missed that chance at the far stick. But Nick Pope was largely untested today, as was the back four. But when it needed to be tested, when Mateta looked like he was up for it and he fancied getting into this game, Malick Thiaw, once again, absolutely superb pace, power. This kid is made for the Premier League. The fact we got him for 30 million quid and we were quoted double for Mark Gahey in the Palace team at the other side, who I thought was all right, made a couple of nice challenges in all fairness. I still like Gahey at Newcastle if Newcastle are interested in that player, but I have a feeling he may go to a Bayern Munich or a Liverpool or something like that. But I thought Malick Thiaw was head and shoulders the best defender on the park by a mile, half the price of Gahey and looks twice the player. That's a great bit of scouting by Newcastle in a summer where things haven't really been great in terms of summer signings. The jury is still out in many people's eyes for the likes of Ramsey, possibly even Nick Voldemar, certainly Anthony Elanga, who I think looks like a bit of a bad bit of business in all fairness. I think he's had long enough now to settle in to this team. He's an established Premier League player and he should be doing better. I'm not sure there's a player there for Newcastle in all fairness. I think they may have to cut their losses on that one and possibly look to get a real quality right winger in, or maybe they can change things up given how good the right-hand side is with a certain young 19-year-old, which I'm going to come to in a second. But when they needed it, Newcastle's superhero, Captain Marvel himself, showed up. Bruno Guimaraes once again. Sandro Tonali was poor again today. I think some of the energy was there, the running was there, but the final execution of his pass is really poor. It's been poor for a long time. I'll get into what I think needs to happen with the midfield in a second, but he took Sandro Tonali off. Some of the fans weren't happy about it. Tonali's a huge fan favourite. I love Tonali. He's been magnificent for Newcastle United, but he looks well off of it. And I don't think we're seeing a player who wants to be at the football club anymore. Now, whatever's going on, it could be legitimate off-the-pitch stuff. I think his partner is just about to have a baby. Apologies, I said that they had a baby already. They're about to have a baby. I'm hearing rumblings about him being potentially homesick. Maybe she doesn't want to raise the kid here. She wants to go back to Italy or something like that. And that's a family thing. Now, that can happen with footballers. That isn't a reason for Sandro Tonali to be vilified by the fan base. Yes, he's a Newcastle United player, and yes, the club has stood by him through the ban and everything, but he's still a guy with a wife and having a baby, and that's difficult as a footballer when your family feel unsettled and they want to come home. You've got to do what's right for your family. I mean, Kieran Trippier did that in many ways when he left Atletico Madrid. Champions League playing Atletico Madrid, La Liga winning Atletico Madrid, and he came to Newcastle because his missus wanted to come back home to the UK. I'm not going to get into what happened after that. So anyone in the comments trying to lick their lips for that, I'm not doing that. But that can dictate sometimes what players do. But Tonali comes off, Ramsey comes on, looks lively, I thought, but it freed Guimaraes up to get more involved in the game, and he just looked like he was hungry for it. He wanted to drag us over the line, but I've got to single the boy wonder. I'm going to talk about, Bruno, man. I'm going to talk about boy wonder as well, because Lewis Miley, once again, unbelievable at right back. Absolutely brilliant. Composed, calm, literally doesn't waste a single pass. I think he's the only player in the Premier League this season to register a 100% passing accuracy for all of his passes in this game. You know how much I love this kid. He's been absolutely brilliant for us as a player since he broke onto the scene at 17. People completely unfairly judging him, in my opinion, critiquing him, slagging him off. People want to sell him at one point. You were like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, we sit there and we bitch and we moan that we don't produce brilliant young players, and we produced a brilliant young player. And some of the fan base wanted rid of him. I understand you have a difference of opinion, but there was people wanting to keep Sean Longstaff over the kid. In my opinion, as much as Sean Longstaff's a canny lad, he's doing well at Leeds, right? There never should have been a world where Elliot Anderson had left this football club before Sean Longstaff, and that's the world that had happened. That needs to go back to the manager and the hierarchy, because that should never have been allowed to have happened. And certainly Lewis Miley should never have been spoken about getting sold. And credit to Howe. Howe's always shut that down. He said he was upset about the Anderson thing. He's not going to allow it to happen to Lewis Miley. And my God, you can't do it now, because the kid is becoming such a big influence on this football team. He's the one who keeps it alive. Stretches a big gangly leg out. Harvey Barnes was brilliant when he come on as an impact player. I've seen some people say, you know, Craig Hope, I like Craig Hope's content. He's a good lad as well. I've met him a few times, but he's saying that Barnes should come off the bench because he has that impact. And I kind of understand where Craig is coming from in that regard, because there's not many players in this squad who can come on and impact the game and change it and give you an instant goal threat. And Barnes can do that. But Anthony Gordon, to me, is not doing enough. A couple of tackles in the first half, you know, right from the start, and got the crowd going. But he doesn't do enough in game to warrant a starting place for me. He certainly doesn't do enough to warrant the reputation that he's built up for himself in his own mind, you know, with a hairband and the Pavel Nedved long locks. You know, he doesn't deserve that. By the way, you can critique Anthony Gordon for his performance, but when the kid puts a post out saying it's 100 caps for Newcastle, you know, 100 appearances for Newcastle United, don't fucking abuse him in the comments. I'll come on to another player in a second. I wasn't going to do a separate rant video about that because I don't want to give these wankers the credence or the airtime. But for fuck's sake, just let the lad post that he's proud to have 100 appearances for Newcastle. You either get behind him and give him a positive comment, right, or don't comment at all. You know, Anthony Gordon, for me, shouldn't be in the starting lineup. I think he's massively flattered to deceive, right? I saw that post. I didn't want to jump on and abuse the lad. Why the fuck should you? Just let the lad post it. He's took it down now because of the abuse he was probably getting, probably from other fans as well, to be fair. But if he's getting it from his own fans, fucking shame on you, man. Just leave it be, scroll by it, and don't bother. People spend so much time hating on people, you know, rather than trying to be positive. Just don't fucking bother. It's a waste of your energy, and it's upsetting for them. Just don't bother, right? But for me, Barnes should be starting games, because I think Barnes gives you that goal threat and gives you that from the off. I would rather be 2 or 3-0 up in a game and then change things, you know, and if Gordon wants to put it in, he can put it in. But there's a big issue with the wing position, really, because Murphy was woeful, and Murphy's been really poor largely most of the season. I think people said he was carrying a knockout on the season, so I kind of understand it. You know, he has had a couple of assists still, but when Jacob Murphy's playing like that, he's offering you next to nothing. And Lewis Miley, God bless him, is a makeshift right back. Eventually just realized that Murphy ain't showed up today. I'm just going to do it on my own. That's exactly what he was doing. That's what got us the goal. But Murphy was so poor in this game. He stays on the pitch because it's Gordon that comes off and Barnes goes left. Barnes is a different player on the left-hand side. He's dynamic. He cuts inside. He's that goal threat all the time. He puts the cross in for the first goal, Barnes. But Howe has got to find a way to try and get Gordon and Barnes into this team at the same time. And the only way to do it is a way that Howe does not want to do. And I said this before, he needs to tell Anthony Gordon, listen, Anthony, you're playing right wing or you ain't playing at all. It's as simple as that. And Gordon is better on the right. You know, his game lends himself to playing on the right. You remember that cross he whipped in for he who shan't be named against Arsenal? That's what Gordon can give you on the right. But the only thing preventing Gordon going on that right-hand side and getting the best out of him in the team and then the best out of Barnes in the team is Gordon's ego. Now, I've just said I don't want to abuse the lad, right? And I'm not, but I'm going to critique him. Gordon needs to get over himself and play on the right-hand side, and Howe needs to grow a pair and tell him to do that. And I think this is the issue. Howe doesn't want to upset Anthony Gordon by moving him out of position. Barnes, to be fair to him, seems to be magnanimous enough to go and play out of position because he wants to be in the team. But Barnes is sacrificing his game so Gordon's game can flourish, but Gordon's game's not flourishing on the left-hand side. So to me, Eddie Howe needs to sit them two down and say to them, I need you two in the same team. You're my two best wingers. You're my two best chances of getting goals. I need you on the right, Anthony. I need you on the left, Harvey. And he needs to sort that out because these two need to be in the team with whoever's through the middle. Wissa, and Voldemort, or whoever it is out of those two, if you put those two either side of that striker, we become a much more potent attacking threat. And Howe needs to get that sorted. He really does. But anyway, going back to the most important part of the game, Bruno Guimaraes, he grew in stature in the game. You know, Craig Hope calls it a superhero cape, and he's done that so many times this season, Bruno. We lost a huge game-changing player in Alexander Isak in the summer. And the other big players haven't turned up. You know, Gordon hasn't turned up really. Tonali's regressed. But one player who has turned up time and time again this season, put his chest out and said, leave it to me, lads. I'm going to fucking sort this out. And that is Bruno Guimaraes. He's got 7 goals now. His best goal return. I wouldn't put it past him getting double figures this season. He's hungry for the goals. But what unlocks Bruno is having somebody like Leeis Miley who he can trust with the ball and is capable of finding it. I mean, just after that as well, Barnes went through 1-on-1. It was a lovely over-the-top ball by Miley, just completely bypassing the right-hand side because he didn't have anything from Murphy. And Barnes makes that run. But you can see how much Miley's grown in the game because the players are making runs for Miley's passes because they know he can find them. And for me, the whole point with right back now was great to see Tino back, great to see Trippier back. I would love to see Leeis Miley moved into that midfield because Tonali is absolutely off of his game. There's no doubt about it. Whatever's going on with him, whether it's a mental thing, whether it's a personal thing, whether he just doesn't want to be at the club anymore, whatever it is with Sandro Tonali, he has to come out of this team because he's given the ball away too many times. And Leeis Miley is so influential on this team now, and the confidence is sky high by the young lad. Put him back in midfield, put Tino at right back, and have him and Bruno Guimaraes terrorizing teams. Because if you put them two in midfield, the telepathic link that they've got, the runs that Bruno makes, knowing that Miley will find him. If you have Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right, the through balls that kid can slip in from deep would be incredible. It would give us a total different attacking threat than what we've had through Sandro Tonali at the minute because he just keeps giving the ball away. And that's a big call that Howe has to make now the full-backs are back. But I understand the argument for keeping Miley in at right back because he's been so good. You know, these next few games coming up, Tino's just back and he's injury prone. Trippier's just back and he's had a long-term injury. So I kind of understand if Howe perseveres with Miley at right back for the next couple of games to build up those lads' strength, and then he tries to make that change. But one thing's for sure, you cannot take Leeis Miley out of this team in the minute because he's becoming such an influential player. He's boy wonder to Bruno, man, as I say, to the superhero that is saving the day for us. But it was a much-needed result. We were poor in spells in the game, but I thought we were marginally better than we were against Burnley. We just didn't have that explosive 7-minute spell. But some huge performances. I thought Joe Linton was excellent again. I thought the last couple of games has really showed the return of the beast from Joe Linton. You know, that aggression, that constant energy around the pitch. He looks fitter, he looks sharper, and we need Joe Linton to be that player because when he is at that level, he's so influential to the team because he sets the standard. He flies into tackles, he's winning headers, he's screaming at his teammates, he's getting the crowd up, and that's the kind of Joe Linton that you need. We haven't seen that Joe Linton for massive spells of the season. Outside of, I think it was a Bradford City, possibly that was his best game. Outside of that, he's been a bit poor, but Burnley and Palace back-to-back wins for Newcastle, coinciding with Joe Linton coming back to form is massive for the football club, and that's what we need. But this run of fixtures that we have, we talked about it before, they are winnable fixtures. This pushes Newcastle up to 9th, the highest league position this season, and that tells you exactly why the criticism of the manager and the players is justified. It really, really is. Criticism is justified, abuse is not. I need to talk about this as well. Huge miss in the game. It should have been 3-0. Joe Willock missed an absolute sit. I was in the Leeis at the other end, and I was going, how has he missed that, right? But the shit I've seen Joe Willock take and the abuse and the vile racial abuse that this lad is taking is absolutely fucking abhorrent by those people who do that online. These people aren't even football fans. They just want to racially abuse somebody. They're just twats. I was going to use a C word there, but I'll probably get demonetized, so I won't use that. But if a C word was ever saved for somebody, it's somebody like that. And I wasn't going to do a separate rant video about this and give them the credence. I thought I'd just throw it in to this aftermath. Not that I think it's not something that needs to be called out, because it fucking does. And fair play to Joe Willock for being so magnanimous about it, and you know, and using the faith that he has to kind of push that negativity and that toxicity out of his stratosphere, you know, by saying, I hope, you know, God finds you peace, or something like that, I think he said. But the people who do that are absolutely fucking disgusting. And I really hope whoever's abused Joe Willock is found and gets punished. You know, there's a lot of stuff people worried about nanny state and you can't say this and you can't say that. To an extent, I kind of agree with that. But when you cross that line, like somebody did there with Joe Willock and racially abuse the kid, that's absolutely fucking out of order. And you should be disgusted with yourself because you're an arsehole, and go and get a fucking grip and get a fucking life as well. Go back to the game. I had to get off my chest. Sorry, guys. Go back to the game itself. As I say, the run of games that we have, it's pushes up to 9th. We've got Leeds at home on Wednesday, shocking kickoff time at 8:15 in this weather conditions as well. My days. I hope you've all managed to get to work okay, by the way. Some lucky bastards are off for another day, so I'm recording this in the house. But I mean, this is awful kickoff times in these kind of conditions. My word, shocking. Getting back home in the dead of night when it's snowing and icy. Hopefully Wednesday, by the sound of it. Not that I'm a weatherman. Ever more weather. Not that I'm a weatherman, but I think Wednesday is going to be a little bit better, to be fair. But yeah, 8:15 kickoff against Leeds United. That's another winnable fixture. Leeds have really picked up as well. I'll get into them on the preview, but it's another winnable fixture for Newcastle. Then we've got obviously Bournemouth in the cup, and we've got Wolves. So we have got some real winnable fixtures, and this could catapult Newcastle's season from being a little bit shit into something a bit special. Now, I'm still not going to, roll backwards here and say I think Eddie Howe's, turned a corner, because I don't think that he has turned a corner. But what he stumbled across through injuries, really creating opportunities for players like Lewis Miley right back. He stumbled across something that's working right now. He stumbled across players who have stood up, when you maybe wouldn't expect them to have such an influence in the game. Lewis Miley being one of those players. Lewis Hall, excellent left back. He didn't have his best game yesterday, but there was still spells where you could see Lewis Hall's control in the game. But we need to manage his minutes carefully as well. And the fact that Tino and Trippier are both back now, who can both play left back, and the fact that Miley can be a good right back when he needs to be. I still want to see him in midfield, but that gives you options to rotate the squad and to not burn players out, which is what Howe's biggest weakness has been, I think, in the last few seasons, is burning players out. There is players that need to move on. I think Joe Willock is one of those players, but like I say, it does not condone the absolute disgust and vile abuse that he received online from a few sad wankers really got nothing better to do and just hate the world. But, people like Joe Willock probably do need to be moved on. We need some freshness in this squad, because freshness gives you impetus. It gives you something to change a game. I think Barnes should be starting. Barnes shouldn't be penalised for being an impact player by sitting on the bench while Gordon's stinking the joint out. So if you can have another impactful player off the bench, Barnes can start games, and then that player can come on. But I don't know who that player is going to be. Keith Schmidt's been mentioned. A few of the players are on the radar. That we need some more people on that bench who can change games, who can come on. I've seen a great quote about substitutes and everything, because when I was younger, when you were a sub, you felt you were benched, you were dropped, that was it. But people say there's starters and there's finishers in the squad, and that's a great way to explain how influential players can be in a team. So, for example, right now, if Gordon's a starter, Barnes is a finisher. He's a finisher in everything but name, everything in name, because he's one of the best finishers at the football club. But you need to have more impactful players who can come off that bench and make something happen. And that's what Newcastle lack. We lack the X factor. Unless Bruno straps the club on his back and runs with it like he has done so many times this season, we don't really have many other players that can do it outside of Barnes, probably. So we need more players like that in the squad. And that's what we need to go and find in transfer windows. January's an awful window. Newcastle haven't really signed a player in 3 seasons or 3 windows, I think. Certainly not an impactful player, but it'd be interesting to see what we do. We'll be covering all the rumours, but a lot of it's just noise. Again, we don't say it's going to happen. We're just talking about what's in the media, but Newcastle definitely needs some creative additions into that team, because we can't put the burden on Bruno all the time, because what will happen is the fan expectation will get higher and higher, that if Bruno doesn't pick it up and run with it and do something, people go, oh, he's had a shit game. If Lewis Miley doesn't pull something out the back, oh, he's had a shit game. And that's what happens, and it's not right. I don't agree with it, but that's why we need more game-changing players in this squad, more creative players who can be impactful players, be finishers when the starters aren't doing the business. But it'll be interesting to see what we do this January window. But it was a good result. It's took us up to a really positive league position. We've got more games ahead of us to try and get back in that top 5 picture. Now, I want Eddie Howe to turn this around. I really do. All the people who probably in the comments go, oh, well, you're Howe out now, Chris. Yeah, I still think Howe has reached his tipping point with this football club. I really do. But I want him to turn this around. I want him to give us a Champions League finish, and then whatever happens in the summer happens, right? But it's still a massive task. It's still a big task in hand. The rest of the league is inconsistent. The rest of the teams can't string a run of wins together, and that's helping Newcastle stay in the picture, because if those other clubs were able to do that, if Spurs were at it and Liverpool were at it and teams like that and Chelsea were at it, we would be way adrift. So the fact that they're not is actually good for Newcastle, because we are 2, 3, 4 wins away from getting right back into that top 5 picture at a key moment of the season as well. It's probably going to be the most condensed, closest Premier League in terms of points totals you've ever seen this season, just because of the inconsistency of the teams within it. And that is probably going to help Newcastle stay within the picture for European football. Still think it's going to be a big challenge at the end of the season, but if Bruno Guimaraes keeps turning up like he is, if Lewis Miley keeps developing like he is, if Jacob Ramsey can come with the party, if Barnes can come with the party, if Gordon can get his shit together, if we can maybe get another player or two in the window, Tino can stay fit, Botman's back fit, can stay fit, Trippier can stay fit to try and give us something through the second half of the season, maybe we've got a fighting chance. But let us know in the comments below what you guys thought about the game, about those two players in particular, Superman and Boy Wonder, Bruno Guimaraes and Lewis Miley. How impressed are you with Lewis Miley? Do you think he should stay as a right back, or would you want to see him in midfield like me as well? I think we've got to the point now, I think Lewis Miley can play anywhere on the park and add an influence to the team, because he's such a good footballer. And I'm really, really impressed with what I've seen. I've always rated the kid, but I think he's just getting up to that next level now. The confidence is there. The swagger's there of an established pro. He knows he belongs at this level. And I think it's amazing to see. Let's hope we get another few Mileys through the academy. I think there's about 20 of them, isn't there, kicking around? God bless that dad. I tell you what, got good genes, that lad. So get some more Mileys in the team. But let us know what you thought about the lineup, what you think about the Barnes and Gordon situation. What would you do in that regard? Who would you go for in January? What do we need in January? Get stuck into that and let me know. I'll be back with a Leeds preview in the next couple of days. I'm back to work tomorrow, so I'll leave, but I will be back with a Leeds preview, and then I'll be back on post-match duty after Leeds Wednesday night. I'll try and get Mark alongside me. We've got a transfer show to come up as well, talk about what we think Newcastle need, what we think they'll probably go and get, what the window is going to look like. So keep it ever more, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, share, hype, smash the bell so you don't miss any videos. Have a belt. I hope your first day back at work wasn't that bad, and hopefully I've got you through your lunch break and calmed you down from whatever's annoying you, whatever colleagues are annoying you in your office. But have a belter, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.